Everyone, this video kind of shocked me this morning. I saw this, and it was an RCMP officer, maybe a bylaw officer, constable, maybe, Hampton NB detachment. And he says these guys are having an interaction, and this guy's kicking, well, the constable, so I think it is RCMP, is giving this guy a $292 ticket for eating a muffin by himself in a car in Tim Hortons parking lot and saying, if you come back, you're trespassing. And the guy says, if I go to any Tim Hortons or just this Tim Hortons? He said, just this Tim Hortons. He says, I'll be handing out fines. Fines go up to $10,000. And he said, how many fines have you given out today? Says the guy in the car. And he says, you're the first. You're lucky. You're the first. You're the first a-hole I've had. Right? Wow. We've turned a corner, Canada. Welcome to Show Me Your Papers, Please. Is this an essential outing? Oh, it's not? Sorry, man. $292 fine and you're trespassing. And I'm going to call you names to boot. And you want to fight it? Okay, good luck. Interesting stuff, right? This is a letter from Donald Trump to Dr. Tedros. And the letter is comprehensive. It's long. I might read all of it. I'm not sure. I'm going to read a lot of the proofs because I think that a lot of the points here. I don't know that I'm going to read the totality of this. It's long and it will increase the length of this video exponentially. Well, not exponentially, to the length of the letter, I suppose. But it's long, so I guess buckle up. Here we go. May 18th, 2020, Donald Trump says, Dear Dr. Tedros, on April 14th, 2020, I suspended the United States contributions to the World Health Organization pending an investigation by my administration of the organization's failed response to the COVID-19 outbreak. This review has confirmed many of the serious concerns I raised last month and identified others that the World Health Organization should have addressed, especially the World Health Organization's alarming lack of independence from the People's Republic of China. Based on this review, we now know the following. The World Health Organization consistently ignored credible reports of the virus spreading in Wuhan in early December 2019 or even earlier, including reports from the Lancet Medical Journal. The WHO failed to independently investigate credible reports that conflicted directly with the Chinese government's official accounts, even those that came from sources within Wuhan itself. By no later than December 30th, 2019, the World Health Organization office in Beijing knew that there was a major public health concern in Wuhan between December 26th and December 30th. China's media highlighted evidence of a new virus emerging from Wuhan based on patient data sent to multiple Chinese genomics companies. Additionally, during this period, Dr. Zhang Jian, excuse me if I've got that wrong, a doctor from Huaibei Province Hospital of Integrated Chinese and Western Medicine, told China's health authority that a new coronavirus was causing a novel disease that was, at the time, afflicting approximately 180 patients. By the next day, Taiwanese authorities had communicated information to the World Health Organization indicating human-to-human transmission of the new virus. Yet the World Health Organization chose not to share any of this critical information with the rest of the world, probably for political reasons. The independent health regulations require countries to report the risk of health emergencies within 24 hours. But China did not inform the World Health Organization of Wuhan's several cases of pneumonia of unknown origin until December 31st, 2019, even though it likely had knowledge of these cases days or weeks earlier. According to Dr. Zhang Yongzhen, excuse me if I've got that wrong, of Shanghai Public Health Clinic Center, he told Chinese authorities on January 5th, 2020, that he had sequenced the genome of the virus. There was no publication of this information until 6 days later on January 11th, 2020, when Dr. Zhang self-posted it online. The next day, Chinese authorities closed his lab for recertification, and as even the World Health Organization acknowledged Dr. Zhang's posting was a great act of transparency. But the World Health Organization had been conspicuously silent, both with respect to the closure of Dr. Zhang's lab and his assertion that he had notified Chinese authorities of his breakthrough 6 days earlier. The World Health Organization has repeatedly made claims about the coronavirus that were either grossly inaccurate or misleading. On January 14th, 2020, the World Health Organization gratuitously reaffirmed China's now debunked claim that the coronavirus could not be transmitted between humans, stating preliminary investigations conducted by Chinese authorities have found no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission of the novel coronavirus identified in Wuhan, China. This assertion was in direct conflict with the censored reports from Wuhan. On January 21st, 2020, President Xi Jinping of China reportedly pressured you not to declare the coronavirus an outbreak the coronavirus outbreak an emergency, you gave in to this pressure the next day and told the world that the coronavirus did not pose a public health emergency of international concern. Just over 1 week later, on January 30th, 2020, overwhelming evidence to the contrary forced you to reverse course. On January 28th, after meeting with President Xi in Beijing, you praised the Chinese government for its transparency with respect to the coronavirus, announcing that China had set a new standard for outbreak control and bought the world time. You did not mention that China had, by then, silenced or punished several doctors for speaking out about the virus and restricted Chinese institutions from publishing information about it. Even after you belatedly declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern on January 30th, 2020, you failed to press China for timely admittance of the World Health Organization team of international medical experts. As a result, this critical team did not arrive in China until 2 weeks later on February 16th, 2020. And even then, the team was not allowed to visit Wuhan until the final days of their visit. Remarkably, the World Health Organization was silent when China denied the 2 American members of the team access to Wuhan entirely. You also strongly praised China's strict domestic travel restrictions, but were inexplicably against my closing of the United States border or the ban with respect to people coming from China. I put the ban in place regardless of your wishes. Your political gamesmanship on the issue was deadly, as other governments relying on your comments delayed imposing life-saving restrictions on travel to and from China. Hey, Canada got a shout out. Incredibly, on February 3rd, 2020, you reinforced your position, opining that because China was doing such a great job of protecting the world from the virus, travel restrictions were causing more harm than good. Yet by then, the world knew that before locking down Wuhan, Chinese authorities had allowed more than 5 million people to leave the city, and that many of these people were bound for international destinations all over the world. As of February 3rd, 2020, China was strongly pressuring countries to lift or forestall travel restrictions. This pressure campaign was bolstered by your incorrect statements on that day, telling the world that the spread of the virus outside of China was minimal and slow, and that the chances of getting this going to anywhere outside of China were very low. On March 3rd, 2020, the World Health Organization cited official Chinese data to downplay the very serious risk of asymptomatic spread, telling the world that COVID-19 does not transmit as efficiently as influenza, and that unlike influenza, this disease was not primarily driven by people who were infected but not yet sick. China's evidence, the World Health Organization told the world, showed them that only 1% of reported cases do not have symptoms, and most of the cases develop symptoms within 2 days. Many experts, however, citing the data from Japan, South Korea, and elsewhere, vigorously question these assertions. It is now clear that Chinese assertions repeated to the world by the World Health Organization were wildly inaccurate. By the time you finally declared the virus a pandemic on March 11th, 2020, it had killed more than 4,000 people and infected more than 100,000 people in at least 114 countries around the world. On April 11th, 2020, several African ambassadors wrote to the Chinese Foreign Ministry about the discriminatory treatment of Africans related to the pandemic in Guangzhou and other cities in China. You were aware that the Chinese authorities were carrying out a campaign of forced quarantine, evictions, and refusal of services against the nationals of these countries. You've not commented on China's racially discriminatory actions. You have, however, baselessly labeled as racist Taiwan's well-founded complaints about your mishandling of this pandemic. Throughout this crisis, the World Health Organization has been curiously insistent on praising China for its alleged transparency in quotes. You've consistently joined in these tributes, notwithstanding that China has been anything but transparent. In early January, for example, China ordered samples of the virus to be destroyed, depriving the world of critical information. Even now, China continues to underestimate the international health regulations by refusing to share accurate and timely data, viral samples, and isolates, and by withholding vital information about the virus and its origins. And to this day, China continues to deny international access to their scientists and relevant facilities, all whilst casting blame widely and recklessly and censoring its own experts. Right? Do you remember when it was the Italian virus and then the United States virus? Back to this. The World Health Organization has failed to publicly call on China to allow for an independent investigation into the origins of the virus, despite the recent endorsement for doing so by its own emergency committee. The World Health Organization's failure to do so has prompted World Health Organization members to adopt the COVID-19 response resolution in this year's World Health Assembly, which echoes the call by the United States and so many others for an impartial, independent, and comprehensive review of the World Health Organization's of how the World Health Organization handled the crisis. The resolution also calls for an investigation into the origins of the virus, which is necessary for the world to understand how best to counter the disease. Perhaps worse than all these failings is that we know that the World Health Organization could have done so much better. Just a few years ago, under the direction of a different Director General, the World Health Organization showed the world how much it has to offer. In 2003, in response to the outbreak of the severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, in China, Director General Harlem Brundtland, excuse me if I got that wrong, boldly declared the World Health Organization's first emergency travel advisory in 55 years, recommending against travel to and from the disease epicenter in southern China. She also did not hesitate to criticize China for endangering global health by attempting to cover up the outbreak through its usual playbook of arresting whistleblowers and censoring media. Many lives could have been saved had you followed Dr. Brundtland's example. Excuse me if I've got that wrong. It is clear the repeated missteps by you and your organization in responding to this pandemic have been extremely costly for the world. The only way forward for the World Health Organization is if it can actually demonstrate independence from China. My administration has already started discussing with you on how to reform the organization, but action is needed quickly. We do not have time to waste. That is why it is my duty as President of the United States to inform you that if the World Health Organization does not commit to major substantive improvements within the next 30 days, I will make my temporary freeze of the United States funding to the World Health Organization permanent and reconsider our membership in the organization. I cannot allow American taxpayer dollars to continue to finance an organization that is in its present state is so clearly not serving America's interests. And yeah, wow, that's what it's like to have a leader. That's leadership. And that took me 10 minutes to read. So I apologize if you wanted it to be faster. Go to double time and then I'll read it in 5. Global News is reporting, WHO agrees to independent probe of how it handled the pandemic. Oh, good. The World Health Organization bowed to calls Monday for most of its member states to launch an independent probe into how it managed the international response to the coronavirus, which has been clouded by finger-pointing between US and China over a pandemic that has killed over 300,000 people and leveled the global economy. The comprehensive evaluation sought by a coalition of African, European, and other countries is intended to review lessons learned from WHO's coordination of the global response to COVID-19, but would stop short of looking into contentious issues such as the origins of the new coronavirus. US President Donald Trump has claimed he has proof suggesting the coronavirus originated in a lab in China, while the scientific community has instead insisted all evidence to date shows the virus likely jumped into humans from animals. They don't say bats. Interesting, right? Because it was supposed to be bats, but bats weren't sold at that wet market. Back to this. In Washington on Monday, Trump faulted WHO for having done a very sad job and said he was considering whether to cut the annual U.S. funding from $450 million to $40 million. Actually, he said he was going to cut them off entirely, if you read the letter. Interesting stuff. So is the WHO going to be held accountable? Is the United States going to walk away? Will the WHO be able to afford their operations? Of course, because Canada will step in. Don't worry. No problem. We'll just borrow on the backs of Canadians for the next few generations, and we will fill in the gap for the United States for this year and next year. And what's going to happen in 2023? Who cares? Leadership, right? Okay, back to this. CBC is reporting Biden says he'd cancel Keystone XL pipeline if elected president. Okay, I'm just going to read this quick. Joe Biden will cancel the Keystone XL pipeline if he's elected president of the United States, his campaign said Monday in a potential death blow for the delay-plagued Canada-U.S. oil project. His staff said he would withdraw the permit issued by President Donald Trump. The emphatic statement from Biden's camp ends months of ambiguity as Biden has not joined in other Democratic candidates in pledging to revoke the permit. The policy director for Biden's campaign said Monday that canceling Keystone XL was the right decision in 2015 when Biden, then Vice President, attended a White House event where then President Barack Obama canceled the permit. It's still the right decision now. In fact, it's even more important today, said Steph Fieldman in response to a query from CBC News after the U.S. site Politico reported on Biden's decision. I scroll down. Canada's oil industry has long viewed that pipeline as a means of alleviating bottlenecks, stifling the exports of Alberta's landlocked bitumen, as Keystone XL would help transmit about 1/5 of all the oil that Canada sends to the U.S. each day. But the project has been repeatedly stalled over the past decade by a series of challenges. I just want to show you a couple of things very quickly. They are sending Alberta oil from BC ports around the Panama Canal, all the way down here, and then all the way back up here. And this Keystone pipeline doesn't have anything to do with that. But does it make sense, or could we build a pipeline from here to there, right? Here to there, roughly, right? Here's the XL pipeline and what that map looks like. Do you want to stick all that oil on tankers and just ship it all the way around and then back into the Gulf of Mexico? Right? There you go. No problems. We'll just stick it on oil tankers. Environment. Morons. Really, like seriously, dude, like look at a map and look at the amount of rail accidents and oil spills, etc. It's very, very disconcerting how effective propaganda is. It works very well, very, very well. So it's very scary. People are protesting against things that would make life cheaper and safer and generally better. Morons. Just because they believe unproven theories and pearl-clutching newspaper articles. It's incredible. It's incredible what's going on. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co and CanadaReport.co as well. And thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.